1 p.m. There it goes. Perfect. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the third meeting of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. So the first order of business for us is the election of a chair. Do I have a nomination or a volunteer for the position of chair, please? Councillor Tozo?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Stephen for chair.
Perfect. And so I'm just going to put you as the mover of that. Is there any other people wishing to be chair or any other nominations? Ophelia?
Yeah.
You would like to second Councillor Stephen as chair, or would you like to run for chair? You're currently vice chair.
Sorry, my brain is not here yet.
That's okay. If you would like to just second Councillor Stephen as chair, that's okay.
Okay, that'll be fine. I would.
Perfect. Ophelia, any other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the vote. All those in favor of Councillor Tozo, Councillor Stephen as chair, please raise your hands in Zoom or on virtual, your virtual hands. And that is unanimously carried. Perfect. Thank you very much. Happy to turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks everyone. I appreciate that. Just to be clear, there is no real power that comes with being chair. I'm just here to keep the meeting running respectfully and on time is the plan. Okay, so just pulling it up. Ian, this is my first time fully chairing a committee like this. So if I mess up, please help me. I would appreciate it. It looks like first thing on the agenda is that we call the meeting to order. So I believe do I need a mover and seconder for this or not till the agenda? Thank you. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. First thing there is approval of the agenda. Can I get someone, a mover and a seconder, please, to approve today's agenda? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Tozo, seconded by Sunita. Sunita, did I say your name correctly? Okay, thank you. All those in favor, just raise your little hand there. Thank you. All opposed? Great, it looks like that's carried. Thank you. We need to do confirmation of minutes from last time. So can I also get a mover and seconder, please? Fresh hands are always welcome. Thanks. Moved by Ophelia, seconded by Sunita. All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Great, that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we are moving on. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? If you're not sure what that means, you're welcome to raise your hand and we can have the clerk explain. Nope, seeing none. Great, thank you. It looks like we have no delegations on the agenda, but we do have a briefing. So we have Colin Wigginton here, our Director of Arts and Culture Services. And he will be presenting to the committee regarding recognizing Emancipation Day in 2022 and planning for 2023. And Mr. Clerk, just before I hand it over to Colin, I just want to confirm briefings are typically 10 minutes and then committee members can ask unlimited questions. That's right?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I will mute myself and Colin, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stephen, and thanks for this opportunity to be with you today at the committee meeting. I just wanted to provide a quick staff briefing to give you an overview of how we've come to this and the opportunity that's before you today to provide some input. So back in 2021, Council passed a motion asking that the City of Kingston formally make effort to recognize Emancipation Day on an annual basis. This was because in 2021, the federal government had passed their own recognition for Emancipation Day, and Council was wanting to create opportunity for the same to happen at a local level here in Kingston. At the time, through the Council motion that was presented, I guess next slide, Ian, if you can. Through the Council motion that was presented, it was directed that the Culture Department take the lead on this recognition, but it was also understood at the time that while the Culture Department would be taking the lead, it was something that we would be working with the community on to develop plans around, and that we would be playing a support role. Next slide, please. So under our work here in the Arts and Culture Services Department, we initiated a round of community planning sessions And those included 3 broader community meetings that were held virtually in March, April, and May 2022, really to start to get to know who was out in the community, who was interested in getting involved and having discussions about Emancipation Day and its meaning here in Kingston and how it could best be recognized at this local level. And those initial meetings were very informal. There was no specific agenda. It was really about trying to get a read from the community about what their interests were. And a number of other partner organizations came to the table during those initial meetings. So led by the city, but there was also people from Queen's University, the Agnes Etherington Arts Center, and the Kingston Frontenac Public Library, as well as Downtown Kingston BIA, who participated in those meetings along with community members. And then in late May 2022, a core group of community members volunteered to be part of an organizing committee. And so that's when we moved from having broader ranging discussions into more focused kind of planning. And it was through that period that a theme was identified of Emancipation Day, Remembrance to Resilience. And, really wanting to emphasize for your benefit that the conversations during those meetings were very rich. And there was recognition of the need for there to be broader community education and awareness around even what Emancipation Day is and means. But also trying to bridge that into a more contemporary kind of setting and to also use it as an opportunity to look at resilience within the community and also celebrate the many achievements of Black Canadians and local Black residents, within the context of Emancipation Day. Next slide, please. So there was a lot of discussion about how in this initial foray and in August 2022, that we could leverage a number of existing offerings that were available as kind of a foundation upon which to start to develop programming and to then build out from that, knowing that there was sort of constraints around time and resource and also levels of community interest. So I'll just quickly run through a few of the things that emerged out of the community planning that happened, some of which was new and some of which leveraged existing programs like Stories in the Square, which is something that the Kingston Frontenac Public Library has run over summer months using the City Hall Amphitheater. So that year it was leveraged as an opportunity to bring attention to stories for young readers about Black history and Black culture. And Judith Brown, who was one of the organizing members around Emancipation Day, participated in that, along with Michelle McDonald, who is better known in the community as the person who offers a program called Ruthie's Reading Room with a focus on Black stories. Next slide, please. Another opportunity that got leveraged that same day was to partner with the Downtown Kingston BIA and their Popular Movies in the Square program. Excuse me. So there was a conversation with them about trying to leverage that opportunity to bring awareness to Emancipation Day. And so we were able to work together to produce some slides that were run ahead of the movie that was held that night, which was called Hidden Figures, that some of you may know about, with the involvement historically of a number of Black women in the origins of the NASA space program. And there was also an opportunity to run a short film from the NFB ahead of the movie screening called Black Soul. And you see here pictured a few of the community organizing members, Jermaine Marshall, Abba Mortley, and Martha Williams. And Martha Williams in particular used the opportunity that evening to share the proclamation that had been passed by City Council in recognition of Emancipation Day. Next slide, please. The Kingston Frontenac Public Library often creates reading lists specific to particular recognitions. So they did that for Emancipation Day in 2022. Next slide, please. Not just in relation to adult readers, but also young readers as well, and using an opportunity through social media to also leverage things like the Movies in the Square Hidden Figures screening to create connections across the different programs that were offered. Next slide, please. We also, within Arts and Culture Services, have the opportunity once a year to present a program called Rockin the Square, which is a free outdoor public concert held in Springer Market Square. We have been doing this for a few years now on the Friday leading into what is typically the long weekend in August. and that lined up well in 2022 with Emancipation Day. And we're always needing to respond to the availability of artists, but we were able to connect with and book Hawaii Mighty, very well-known award-winning Canadian artist to perform and be the headliner for Rockin the Square in 2022. You see a great picture there of Judith Brown from the organizing committee with Hawaii Mighty, and we had about 6,000 people out that night for that concert. Next slide, please. One of the new offerings in relation to Emancipation Day that we were able to offer in 2022 was what eventually became known as Sunday Funday. This was a free daytime event at Lake Ontario Park that was organized by the Black community for the Black community. And through the organizing conversations that were had, it became very clear that there was a desire for there to be a community-specific event that would be, during the day, family-friendly, informal, involve coming together as a community for readings. You see Michelle McDonald there again from Ruthie's Reading Room, and an opportunity for just kind of community building and exchange. And it was a great success, and something that is already being identified as an activity in 2023. Next slide, please. The city played a support role through trying to help spread the word about Emancipation Day, both as a recognition, but also in terms of the events that were offered. So we worked through our channels, things like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, to share content to help bring awareness to the broader community, as well as to highlight specific events. Next slide, please. And all this led up to Emancipation Day itself on August 1st. You see here reproduced here a copy of the proclamation that was actually authored by the community and approved by council and signed by Mayor Patterson. And through the Poet Laureate program that Arts and Culture Services facilitates, our Poet Laureate last year, Jason Haru, also worked with Abina Beloved Green, a well-known poet writer here in Kingston, to commission a specific poem that was in recognition of Emancipation Day. And that's something that's still available on the City of Kingston's YouTube channel. Next slide, please. So planning for 2023, what's been really amazing to see happen is a kind of momentum building within the community. So following the programming that was offered in 2022, we did have a debrief meeting in August. And then in the fall, the Human Rights and Equity Office at Queen's University picked up the baton, as it were, to begin planning around Black History Month. And we've seen this momentum build over a number of months. So many of the people involved in Emancipation Day also got involved in planning around what became known as Black History Futures Month. And springing off of that now, we're seeing that same dynamic carried forward with people who are involved in Black History Futures Month's planning to help to help to inform what might be possible for Emancipation Day in 2023. So that brings us to today's meeting. We have had a couple of broader community discussions last week with people involved with with Black History Futures Month to start talking about Emancipation Day. And we wanted to create this opportunity for this committee to become familiar with what was offered and get involved with informing what we do in 2023.
Thank you very much, Colin, and right on time. Well done. So this is an opportunity. If anyone on the committee has any questions for Colin, you're welcome to raise your hand. I'll take down your name and try to get you in order as best I can. Are there any questions? Looking around, seeing none. Okay, we're good. Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. So I have one screen here, so I'm trying to manage all these things. Here we go. All right, so we are moving on now to business. We have 4 information reports. And Mr. Clerk, if I could trouble you to unmute for a second, what's the best way for us to go through these? Thank you.
So the first one is directly in relation to the briefing we just had. And then for the rest of them, the next 3, staff will provide just a very brief introduction to the report, as you've all read them, so we don't need to go through them completely. And then you'll have unlimited, you have 5 minutes to ask questions or comments And then we'll also open it up to members of the public. Just going to double check here. We currently don't have any members of the public on the call, but we would open it up for members of the public to make comments or ask questions to staff. And then we move on after everyone has had the opportunity to speak, and we have no more questions past that point.
Okay, so we'll go through the reports one by one. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so we'll do report A, recognizing Emancipation Day in 2022 and planning for 2023. There were no questions at that time. Just checking again, no questions or comments related to this. Seeing none. Okay, so we'll go on to report B, Office of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion updates for Q1 2023. So I'm guessing this will be Mohammed probably. Thanks, Mohammed.
And you're right. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This report summarizes the recent activities of Office of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion in Q1 of 2023. You must have noticed that Exhibit A of this report is the amazing work plan that this committee approved in the last meeting. So you will be seeing this work plan attached to every EDI committee report that you will be receiving, and the statuses will be updated accordingly. Specifically, this report talks about the recognition of festivals and events for diverse employees. That's a corporate initiative that we focused on. And also with help of our legal services, we developed an EDI resource with the legal perspective. And there's a specific reason why we went with both these documents, specifically for the recognition of festival and events for diverse employees. It's important for us to recognize that recognizing diverse festivals and events in the corporation is important in creating a better sense of employee belonging and inclusion. Remembering various cultures and religious festivities help acknowledge the employees' diverse backgrounds and tradition. Additionally, celebrating diverse festivals and events in the workplace help foster positive corporate culture and build stronger relationship between colleagues. As the next step, we are exploring the possibility of integrating with the city's website and also staff Outlook calendar. And we have been sending periodical educational emails to staff regarding these events. One of the recent one that we recently set was around the Tamil New Year, which was last week. And what we do with these emails is it's not just that we recognize it, we also make sure that there are educational links attached to it for staff to know more about these important festivals and also understand how important it is for their co-workers to celebrate and recognize these events. The second item on this report is the legal's perspective on equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's a learning resource which was designed to address the crucial need of a workplace to understand how important it is to have equity, diversity, inclusion from the legal's principle and perspective. It's a resource that provides a comprehensive understanding of the legal framework targeting specifically to equity, diversity, and inclusion. The resource also talks about the rights and responsibility of any organization in promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion, and creating and fostering a culture of respect and acceptance. That is also attached for this committee as Exhibit B. And I want to recognize the support of our legal services team, specifically Alan McLeod, a senior legal counsel and deputy city solicitor, for his leadership and taking the lead on developing this document for the corporation. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you, Mohammed. This is an opportunity if anyone from the committee would like to ask any questions. Please raise your hand if you do. Seeing none. And Mr. Clerk, you already said we have no members of the public right now. So it looks like we are moving on to our next report. So the third one we have is the newcomer voucher update. I believe I see Julie Fawcett here. She is the manager of marketing and revenue development. Welcome, Julie, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Thank you very much. I just wanted to give a little bit of context, a little bit of historic context to why we're having this conversation right now. Essentially, as you would have seen in the report, there was a report to council several years ago about the newcomer vouchers. A very good program, but definitely through COVID, there was an opportunity to kind of revisit that program and say, you know, is it working? What needs to change? And, you know, the main reason that my team is responsible for this program is just because we are actually supporting all of these departments currently with marketing. And it's a lot easier for us to be working on this and say Mitch in Housing and Social Services, who might not be responsible for inventory. So I connected with you, Jir, at KIP. And she gave me some amazing feedback from the agencies and from the people who are using it and what they like and what they don't like. Then I also met with all of the departments who are responsible for the vouchers. And so we've made some mild updates to the voucher program for 2023. It's a little bit of a pilot project, I guess, in terms of we will be continuing to track usage and kind of get feedback and see what needs to be changed. But Mohammed had just suggested that we make sure that we give an update to this group, and that obviously if there's any concerns or questions about it, please let us know. I think the main change is that recreation and leisure services will be offering, and I see Amy's on the call, I don't want to put her on the spot, but essentially a little bit of an orientation session based on feedback from some newcomers struggling to know how to get into artillery park change rooms, or where to put skates on, or so just in terms of, it's one thing to be able to say you can use these facilities, but how to be able to use them and how to welcome them there is something that they'll be doing, which I think is a wonderful idea. Kingston Transit already does something like that, and it's very successful because the people don't have the concerns about how to get on a bus and how to check the schedules. And the other change is just the eligibility. So there were some quite rigorous guidelines in terms of who and who could not access the vouchers. And Ujir really was suggesting that we try to open it up so that we want people, if they want to try these city services, we want to be able to support them in that and not be able to say, well, you're not this type of newcomer, so therefore you don't qualify. So I think that's a lot, giving the people who are working with these newcomers more agency to be able to have that flexibility, which I think is great. We're going to test it and again, see what the quantity is. But I think so there, you know, we are expecting there will be probably an increase in use based on the increased eligibility. But I think this is a much better approach both for the city and for newcomers. So I think that's all I really wanted to share in context of the report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Does the committee have any questions or comments? You can raise your hand if you do.
I just have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Ophelia.
So how do newcomers access, like how do they find out? Is it only through, like, let's say if they're getting services from another organization, or can they inquire on their own?
I see that Mohammed has his hand up. He might have an additional question, but I will share that through my through speaking with KIP, essentially they offer these vouchers to ACFOMI, Keys, ISCA, KIP, themselves, and then so it's actually if you have a relationship with one of these agencies. So currently, in order to access the vouchers, you go to someone at one of those places. So it's through existing programs. We do have information on the website that will be updated following today's meeting. But at this point, that's how individuals are able to access those programs.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Sunita, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, I had been involved with this back in the day when I was at KIP. So thank you for providing this update, Julie. And the transit info sessions were received really well. I'm glad that something is happening with the recreational services. Just wanted to check in terms of additions. Has anything been added? Like there used to be a culture pass that allowed access to the museums and perhaps even a show at the Grand Theater, but has there been any other additions per se or more enhancements to the welcome package?
Thanks, Sunita. And yes, Sunita and I worked very closely on this for a number of years back, a few years ago. Currently, right now, the Culture Pass itself is specifically admission to the Pump House Museum, and we're hoping Heritage Services is hoping to provide some sort of potentially guided tours or programs that are to increase some accessibility to those people. Again, very intimidating to probably go into a museum and not necessarily know what to expect. And then I'm also working with Colin's colleagues in Arts and Culture Services to provide some more in-depth information about what to expect when you go to the Kingston Grand Theater. Again, some other parts of the world, going to the theater is a very inaccessible, fancy type of experience. And we certainly wouldn't want people who are new to Kingston to think that they have to wear a suit and tie or anything, fancy to go there. So I think it's more around existing offerings, but trying to offer more information about what to expect on your visit, contact information for those different experiences if people have questions, to try to minimize some of those barriers. If there are other opportunities that are of interest to newcomers that we can provide, we will do that. We just hadn't at this point identified any additional experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joey.
Mohammed, go ahead.
Yeah, just building on to what Julie just shared in terms of enhancement, I just want to highlight that the most important enhancement with this program is expanding the net of the offering through offering it to international students in particular, because that's one area that we really heard from several members of this committee as well, that like most of the services are not offered to international students, and we sort of miss on this important opportunity of making them feel more welcome in the city of Kingston. And definitely the individuals who arrive through the super visa program, which is slightly different from a regular visit visa program. It's for parents and grandparents, and they can stay up to 5 years, regardless of whether they have other sort of facilities available or not. So like they're sort of like temporary resident in Kingston if they are staying here. So offering this program will also create more sense of belonging for them. And definitely, as Julie mentioned, that any other type of newcomer to Kingston, regardless of their status, like individuals who have been forcibly displaced by conflict, political instability, violence, or persecution, we want to make them feel that Kingston is their home, and as corporation, we welcome them through this welcome package. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Sunita, did you have any follow-up questions, or you're good? Did anyone else want to speak? No? Okay, seeing none. Great, thanks everyone. We will move on to our final information reports. So our last one that we have here is Canada Day Planning 2023. And I see we have Amy Gibson here. Amy, sorry, I don't have your title in front of us. If you don't mind telling everyone, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen, and through you, Madam Chair. So it's Amy Gibson, and I'm the Manager of Recreation and Leisure Services. Thank you for having me this afternoon. So before you will receive a report that outlines the Canada Day events from 2022 and also further proposed plans for the Canada Day events that will mark in 2023. So just in terms of a brief overview, in 2022, we pivoted the event that was historically held at Grass Creek Park. And that event looked quite different. and was something that the community was really used to and participated in. But in 2022, we decided to go to a neighborhood level and bringing the events at different locations. We decided on 3 locations, which were Rideau Heights, Woodbine Park, and the newly built Kingston East Community Center. And so by pivoting that to a neighborhood level, we were able to bring in different levels of programming and really look at how our activities were being shared with the community. So we are suggesting the same format in terms of activities and activations for 2023, with the exception of moving the civic ceremony that's traditionally held first thing on Canada Day and moving that to a September date, which would be ahead of our Intercultural Arts Festival. And that's been discussed in consultation with the mayor's office. There's 2 guides that we use, which is the municipal accessible guide in terms of event planning, as well as the special events policy. So those are the 2 guiding documents. And significantly, I think in moving forward for 2023, one of the biggest pieces that we'd like to look for would be an opportunity to engage the community in some feedback. We didn't get a lot of that in 2022, so we're looking for different ways to be creative around gathering that feedback from community, and have been working with our comms department on that. So that's the report, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Amy. Do any committee members have any questions or comments they'd like to do now? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Amy, for your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everybody. So we are moving on from reports to notices of motion. I don't see any here. Mr. Clerk, do we have any notices of motion? Nope. Okay, thank you. On to other business. Any other business that anyone would like to bring forward? Nope, seeing none. Okay. On to correspondence. Mr. Clerk, is there correspondence we should know about? Nope.
None at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Just for our information in future, if there is correspondence, will it be listed there on the agenda?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes. So it would be listed just like any other item of business, like A, B, C, D.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, item 12, on to the date of our next meeting. So the next meeting of the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee is scheduled for Monday, June 26th, 2023 at 1 p.m. And from there, it looks like we're moving on to adjournment. So is there a mover and a seconder, please? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Tozo, seconded by Omalara. Did I say your name correctly? Good. Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Have a great afternoon.
Have a good afternoon, everyone.